Ambassador Theron Kix of the Velan Communion had always prided himself on noticing details others missed. His species possessed 4 independent eyes that could track separate movements simultaneously, a trait that made him exceptional at diplomatic negotiations. But even he almost overlooked humanity's disappearance. It began with a routine report crossing his desk in the Grand Council archives. Theron sat in his crystalline office overlooking the capital world of Nexus Prime, reviewing quarterly attendance records. His lower left eye caught something unusual. Humanity had missed 3 consecutive council sessions without filing absence protocols. Peculiar, he muttered, his translator chip rendering the words in standard galactic common. He tapped the holographic interface, pulling up human colony registrations. The list appeared, then began flickering. Entry after entry showed the same status: dormant, abandoned, silent. Theron's primary eyes widened. His secondary pair immediately began scanning related documents while his mind raced. He opened a communication channel to the Council Overseer's office. Myrith Voss appeared in holographic form, her silver exoskeleton gleaming under administrative lighting. The Cathrian official looked annoyed at the interruption. Ambassador Kix, I'm in the middle of treaty revisions. What requires my immediate attention? The humans, Theron said simply. When did you last hear from them? Myrith's antennae twitched with irritation. The humans? Those upstart primates who joined the council barely 2 centuries ago? Why would I track their movements? Because they're gone, Overseer. All of them. A pause. Myrith's expression shifted from annoyance to confusion. Define gone. Their colonies, empty. Their communication networks, offline. Their representative, absent for 9 standard months. Theron forwarded the data streams to her terminal. They've withdrawn completely from galactic society. Myrith studied the information, her antennae now standing rigid with concentration. This is unexpected. But hardly catastrophic, Kix. Species fail all the time. Perhaps they encountered internal political collapse. Civil war. Economic ruin. The galaxy will continue without them. But don't you find it strange? Theron pressed. No distress signals. No requests for aid. No gradual decline. Just silence. Strange, perhaps. But not our concern. Myrith's hologram began to fade. File it under extinct or collapsed civilizations. We have more pressing matters. The connection terminated. Theron sat back in his chair, all 4 eyes now focused on the human territorial maps floating before him. Something felt wrong. Species didn't just vanish like this. There were always signs, warnings, desperate final transmissions. He opened another file, accessing the last official message from the human delegation. It had been submitted by their junior envoy, someone named Palo Nesmith, who had filed a simple automated notice. Humanity withdraws from Galactic Council participation effective immediately. No further communication necessary. That was it. No explanation. No farewell speeches. No emotional declarations. Just a bureaucratic statement and then nothing. Theron spent the next several hours digging deeper. He accessed trade records and found that human merchant vessels had systematically returned to their home systems over a 6-month period. Military databases showed their defense fleets had pulled back from shared border patrols. Scientific collaborations had been quietly terminated with polite but firm final reports. It was methodical, planned, deliberate. His research was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Palo Nesmith himself appeared at Theron's office door, a young Velan analyst who had been assigned as humanity's last administrative liaison. The junior officer looked troubled, his own multiple eyes unfocused with anxiety. Ambassador Kix, Palo said quietly. I hoped someone would eventually ask questions. May I come in? Theron gestured to a seat. You worked with the humans during their withdrawal. I processed their final paperwork, Palo confirmed. Sir, they were very specific about their departure. They paid all outstanding debts. They transferred all shared research to public archives. They even left detailed maintenance instructions for stations they'd built in neutral space. That doesn't sound like a civilization in collapse, Theron observed. No, sir. It sounds like a civilization that was planning to be gone for a very long time. Palo hesitated. There was one thing that bothered me. In their final resource allocation report, they requisitioned massive amounts of exotic matter. Quantities that would normally take centuries to gather. For what purpose? They wouldn't say. Classified it under species internal research. But Ambassador. Palo leaned forward. The amounts they took could power entire star clusters for millennia. What could they possibly be building? Theron felt a chill despite his warm-blooded physiology. Did you try to follow up? I sent inquiries to their last known coordinates beyond the outer spiral. Every message came back undeliverable. Not blocked. Just, undeliverable. As if the addresses no longer existed in any meaningful way. The two Velan officials sat in silence, staring at the star maps. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization had packed up and left. No one had stopped them. No one had questioned them. No one had cared enough to investigate. We should inform the council, Palo suggested. Theron shook his head slowly. Overseer Voss already dismissed it. The council doesn't care about one missing species among thousands. He looked at his junior colleague. But I want you to set up a monitoring system. Flag any unusual activity in the sectors humanity once occupied. If they're really just gone forever, fine. But if something else is happening, you think they'll come back? I think, Theron said carefully, that a species capable of disappearing this completely is capable of anything. And I'd rather not be surprised. Palo nodded and left to begin his work. Theron remained alone in his office, all four eyes fixed on the empty space where humanity's territories once glowed on the galactic map. The darkness there seemed deeper now. More intentional. Humanity had left without fanfare, without drama, without anyone really noticing. And somehow, that made their absence far more unsettling than any grand exit could have been. Outside his window, the great spiral of the galaxy turned as it always had, countless civilizations living their lives, conducting their business, completely unaware that something fundamental had shifted. The humans were gone. And Theron Kix was the only one who seemed to think that mattered. Captain Eurus Helm had spent 43 years navigating the void between stars, and he'd learned to trust his instincts. Right now, every instinct screamed that something was catastrophically wrong. His exploration vessel, the Horizon's Edge, drifted at the boundary of the outer spiral arm, sensors displaying readings that should have been impossible. Behind him, Science Officer Ren Takata stared at her console with an expression caught between fascination and horror. Captain, she said softly, her voice barely audible over the ship's ambient hum. The stars are going out. Eurus had seen the initial reports 3 weeks ago. A dozen solar systems in the outer spiral had simply stopped transmitting. The Council had assumed technical failures, perhaps a coordinated pirate attack on communication arrays. Standard procedure, send an exploration fleet to investigate and restore contact. But this wasn't standard anything. Define going out, Eurus said, though he could see the sensor data himself. He just needed to hear someone else confirm the impossible. Ren manipulated her holographic display, zooming in on a star system that had gone dark 6 days ago. They're not dying, sir. Dying stars follow predictable patterns: expansion, collapse, supernova. These stars are just stopping. Their light reaches a certain distance, then terminates. Not blocked. Not absorbed. Terminated. That's not how physics works, Eurus muttered. No sir, it's not. The ship's communication officer, a young woman named Destar Caro, interrupted them. Captain, I'm receiving automated distress beacons from the Meridian cluster. Approximately 2,000 individual signals, all broadcasting simultaneously. Put it through. The bridge filled with an overlapping cacophony of emergency broadcasts. Different languages, different species, all saying essentially the same thing: help us. The darkness is coming. Reality is failing. Then, in perfect synchronization, every single beacon cut off. Eurus felt his stomach drop. Ren, how far is Meridian cluster from our position? 47 light-years, sir. And those beacons were real-time. Ren's hands trembled slightly over her controls. Yes, sir. Quantum-paired emergency systems. Whatever happened there is happening right now. Eurus made a decision. Helm, set course for the Meridian cluster. Maximum safe speed. And get me a direct line to Council Emergency Command. The response from Nexus Prime came faster than expected. Counselor Ephraim Stone's weathered face appeared on the main view screen, the elderly human-descended Teresian looking more exhausted than Eurus had ever seen him. Captain Helm, Ephraim said without preamble. Please tell me you have good news. I'm afraid not, Counselor. We're witnessing what appears to be a cascading failure of fundamental physics across multiple star systems. Do we have any information about what could cause this? Ephraim's expression darkened. 3 days ago, We lost contact with the entire outer spiral arm. 37,000 inhabited worlds. Population estimates in the trillions. We sent 12 exploration fleets to investigate. He paused. Yours is the only one still reporting. The bridge went silent. Eurus felt his crew's eyes on him. Counselor, what happened to the other fleets? They reached the affected zones and stopped transmitting. We've attempted quantum rescue beacons, emergency recalls, everything. Nothing. It's as if they crossed an invisible line and simply ceased to exist. Ren suddenly spoke up, her voice urgent. Captain, I'm detecting something at the edge of our sensor range. I don't know what it is. Eurus turned to Ephraim. Counselor, I'm going to investigate this anomaly. If you don't hear from us in 6 hours. Understood, Captain. And Helm? Whatever you find out there, the Council needs to know. We're completely blind. The transmission ended. Eurus took a deep breath and addressed his crew. I won't order anyone to accompany me into an unknown threat. If anyone wants to take an escape pod back to Council space, now's the time. No one moved. Destar actually smiled slightly. With respect, sir, I didn't sign up for safe. Eurus nodded, grateful despite the circumstances. All right then. Ren, what are we looking at? The science officer magnified the sensor display. What appeared was beyond comprehension. A structure, if it could be called that, stretched across space on a scale that dwarfed anything Eurus had seen in 4 decades of exploration. It wasn't solid, it seemed to exist partially in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its edges bleeding into space-time itself. It's massive, Ren whispered. Captain, that thing is using entire star systems as components. I'm detecting energy signatures that would require the output of 1,000 suns just to maintain baseline operations. Where did it come from? I don't know. But sir. Ren looked up at him. The construction patterns, the mathematical signatures in the energy flows, they're human. Eurus felt as if the deck had dropped beneath his feet. That's impossible. Humanity vanished 30 years ago. I know what the signatures say, Captain. This was built by humans. The ship drew closer to the megastructure, and more details became horrifyingly clear. Sections of it were malfunctioning, spewing exotic particles that literally unraveled the fabric of spacetime. Stars weren't going dark, they were being unmade at the quantum level, their very existence being edited out of reality. It's a weapon, Destar breathed. No, Ren said slowly, studying the data streams. I don't think so. Look at the design. It's not built for destruction. It's built for construction. Or possibly transportation. But something went wrong. Those sections that are malfunctioning, they're cascading. Each failure triggers more failures. And unmaking reality in the process, Eurus finished grimly. A new contact appeared on sensors. A small ship, human design, but ancient by galactic standards. It was damaged, limping toward them on failing engines. Hail them, Eurus ordered. The response crackled through interference. A human voice, tired and desperate. This is Maintenance Engineer Max's Lawn to unidentified vessel. For the love of everything, please tell me you're here to help. This is Captain Eurus Helm of the Horizon's Edge. We're a Council exploration vessel. What's happening here? There was a long pause, then bitter laughter. What's happening? The greatest mistake in human history, that's what. Captain, can your ship dock with mine? I need to get aboard. My systems are failing, and I have information the Council desperately needs. Stand by for docking procedures. Minutes later, Max's Lawn stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Edge. He was young for a human, maybe 30 standard years, but his eyes carried the weight of someone much older. His maintenance suit was scorched and patched, and he carried a data core clutched against his chest like a precious child. How many survived? He asked immediately. Survived what? Eurus asked. The accident. The cascade. How many worlds did we kill? The directness of the question stunned Eurus. We don't have full casualty reports yet. But the entire outer spiral arm appears affected. Thousands of systems. Maxis closed his eyes, and Eurus saw tears streak down his face. God. We tried to shut it down. We tried so hard. What is that thing? Ren demanded, pointing at the view screen showing the megastructure. Maxis looked at it with an expression of profound grief. That was supposed to be humanity's gift to the universe. A bridge between dimensions. A way to access infinite energy, infinite resources. We were going to solve every problem the galaxy faced: scarcity, distance, entropy itself. And instead, Eurus prompted gently. Instead, we made a mistake in the quantum stabilization protocols. During the initial test, a feedback loop formed. It started consuming reality to power itself. We've been trying to contain it for 6 days, but it's spreading faster than we can compensate. Maxis held up the data core. This contains everything. Our research, our mistakes, our attempted solutions. Maybe someone smarter than us can figure out how to stop it. Ephraim Stone's face reappeared on the view screen, his expression grave. Captain Helm, your ship's telemetry is reaching us. Please confirm, humanity built that structure? Maxis turned to face the counselor directly. Humanity built it, counselor. 30 years ago, we left the galaxy because we knew our research was dangerous. We didn't want to risk anyone else. We went beyond the rim, to empty space, so if something went wrong, only we would suffer. Then why didn't you ask for help? Ephraim's voice carried genuine pain. Why didn't you warn us? Because 30 years ago, when we tried to warn the council about other dangers, no one listened, Maxis said quietly. We learned that the galaxy saw us as primitive, reckless, too young to be taken seriously. So we left. We thought we could solve our own problems, push the boundaries of science in isolation, and return when we had something perfect to offer. The bridge was silent except for the hum of ship systems. Instead, Maxis continued, his voice breaking, we created a catastrophe. And now I'm the only maintenance engineer left alive from a crew of thousands, carrying the data from a failed dream. He looked at each person on the bridge. The cascade is still spreading. Within a month, it'll reach the core worlds. Within a year, it'll consume the entire galaxy. Can it be stopped? Eurus asked. I don't know, Maxis admitted. But humanity has one functional research station left, shielded deep inside our original territory. If anyone can help us stop this, it's the scientists there. If they'll even talk to the council after everything. Counselor Ephraim Stone's face hardened with determination. Captain Helm, I want you to escort Engineer Lorne to this research station immediately. Full council authorization. Whatever resources you need, you'll have. And if the humans refuse to help? Eurus asked. Ephraim looked older than his years. Then we've already lost. The transmission ended. Eurus turned to Maxis. Give my navigator the coordinates. We'll get you home. As the horizon's edge changed course, heading deeper into the territory humanity had abandoned decades ago, Eurus couldn't help but stare at the viewscreen. Behind them, stars continued winking out of existence, reality unraveling one system at a time. Humanity had left the galaxy to protect it. Instead, they'd created the very catastrophe they'd feared. And now everyone would pay the price for dreams that reached too far, too fast. The question was, could anyone stop it before the entire galaxy became nothing more than a void where reality had once existed? The coordinates Maxis provided led them to a region of space that shouldn't have existed on any map. Captain Eurus Helm watched his navigation console struggle to plot a course through what appeared to be folded spacetime, layers of reality compressed like pages in a book. This is impossible, his helmsman muttered. Space doesn't bend like this naturally. Humanity reshaped it, Maxis explained from his position near the science station. We needed protection from our own experiments. This entire region exists slightly out of phase with normal space. You can't find it unless you know exactly where to look. Ren Takata studied her senses with increasing amazement. Captain, I'm detecting structures everywhere. Hundreds of research platforms, observation posts, containment facilities. This isn't just a station. It's an entire hidden civilization. As they penetrated deeper into the folded space, more of humanity's secret infrastructure became visible. Massive ring-shaped installations surrounded artificial singularities. Computational arrays the size of moons processed data streams Eurus couldn't begin to comprehend. And at the center of it all, a station that looked more like a small planet, bristling with technology that made council science seem primitive by comparison. How long have you been building this? Eurus asked quietly. 32 years, Maxis replied. We didn't leave the galaxy to hide, Captain. We left to evolve. To push past limitations everyone else accepted as fundamental. His voice grew bitter. We just pushed too far. A transmission cut through the bridge speakers. The voice was female, sharp with authority and suspicion. Unidentified vessel, you are in restricted human territory. State your identity and purpose immediately, or we will assume hostile intent. Maxis stepped forward. This is Maintenance Engineer Max's Lawn, authorization code Theta 7 Epsilon. I'm aboard a Council exploration ship. I'm carrying critical data from the Outer Rim project. We need immediate audience with the Research Directorate. A long pause followed. Then, Maxis? We thought you were dead. Everyone at Station 17 was, the voice caught. Bring your ship to Docking Bay 12. And Maxis? There are going to be a lot of questions. The horizon's edge approached the central station, and Joris felt his breath catch. Up close, the scale was overwhelming. The station rotated slowly, generating artificial gravity through centrifugal force, but its design incorporated physics that went far beyond simple rotation. Sections of it seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, quantum superpositions made manifest in metal and energy. They docked without incident. When the airlock opened, they were met by a security team in powered armor, weapons conspicuously present but not aimed. Behind them stood a woman in a pristine white research uniform, her dark hair pulled back severely, her eyes carrying the exhaustion of someone who hadn't slept in days. I'm Diplomatic Envoy Silas Crane, she said, extending a hand to Joris. Despite her title, everything about her bearing suggested military background. On behalf of humanity, I apologize for the circumstances of your visit. We need to speak with whoever's in charge of your dimensional research, Maxis said urgently. The cascade is accelerating. We have maybe 3 weeks before it reaches inhabited council space. Silas's expression tightened. We know. We've been monitoring it since the accident. Follow me. Director Venn has cleared you for the emergency session. They were led through corridors that hurt to look at directly, walls embedded with equations that seemed to shift and resolve as observers moved past them. Joris caught glimpses into laboratories where impossible experiments were in progress, captured moments of time being studied like insects in amber, artificial pocket universes blinking in and out of existence, machines that appeared to be negotiating with the fundamental constants of physics. You've been busy, Wren whispered, unable to hide her scientific fascination despite the dire circumstances. We had to be, Silas replied without turning. The council saw us as useful workers, good soldiers, decent engineers, reliable allies. But when we proposed truly revolutionary research, we were dismissed as reckless. Too young. Too aggressive. Too willing to break things that shouldn't be broken. She glanced back. So we left. And we broke them anyway. They entered a vast command center where dozens of humans worked at stations displaying data streams from across multiple dimensions. At the center stood an older woman with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. She wore a simple jumpsuit marked with the insignia of the Council Emergency Directorate, a rank Joris didn't even know existed. Director Yora Venn, Silas introduced. Council Emergency Director and Head of Humanity's Dimensional Research Program. Yora studied Joris and his crew with an expression that was neither hostile nor welcoming. Simply calculating. Captain Helm. Science Officer Takota. I've reviewed your service records during your approach. Impressive careers. You've both made significant contributions to galactic exploration. She paused. Which makes what I'm about to tell you even more difficult. Can you stop the cascade? Joris asked bluntly. Yes, Yora replied. Then, before relief could set in, but the cost will be unacceptable to the Council. Maxis moved forward, placing his data core on the nearest console. Director, this contains everything from Station 17. Our last containment attempts, the failure analysis, the progression models. I've already seen it, Yora interrupted gently. Maxis, you and your team did excellent work. You bought us precious time. But the fundamental problem remains. The cascade is feeding on reality itself. Every atom it consumes gives it energy to consume more. It's a runaway reaction at the quantum level. So how do we stop it? Wren asked. Yora manipulated a holographic display, showing the cascade's progression. The affected region had grown enormously since they'd left the outer spiral. We have to starve it. Cut it off from the matter and energy it's consuming. Which means we need to collapse the dimensional bridge we built. That doesn't sound so bad, Joris ventured. The bridge connects to 4,000 inhabited star systems, Yora said flatly. To collapse it safely, those systems need to be evacuated. Completely. Every person, every ship, every outpost. 4 trillion sentient beings relocated within 3 weeks. The number hit Joris like a physical blow. That's impossible. Yes, Yora agreed. Which is why I calculate a 97% probability that the council will refuse. They'll demand we find another solution, one that doesn't require such massive upheaval. They'll form committees, debate alternatives, waste time we don't have. You sound like you've dealt with the council before, Silas said bitterly. I was council emergency director for 16 years before humanity withdrew, Yora replied. I know exactly how they think. Which is why I'm preparing to act unilaterally if necessary. Yoris felt cold dread settle in his stomach. What does that mean? Yora met his eyes directly. It means if the council won't evacuate those systems voluntarily, humanity will force the evacuation. We'll deploy our fleet, physically remove every living being we can reach, and collapse the bridge whether they approve or not. Some will die. Many will lose everything. But the alternative is the complete annihilation of reality across half the galaxy. You can't do that, Yoris protested. The council will see it as an act of war. Perhaps, Yora acknowledged. But I'd rather be remembered as a warmonger than as the woman who let civilization end because she was too polite to act. She turned to a communications officer. Open a channel to Council Nexus Prime. Maximum priority. Emergency protocols. The channel opened, and Councillor Ephraim Stone's hologram materialized, surrounded by other council members. The council chamber behind them was in chaos, representatives shouting over each other. Director Venn, Ephraim said, relief evident in his voice. Thank the stars. We've been trying to reach human territory for days. The cascade has accelerated. We need. I know what you need, Counselor, Yora interrupted. I'm transmitting our analysis now. The solution requires complete evacuation of 4,000 star systems within 21 days. The council chamber went silent. Then erupted in protest. Impossible, one representative shouted. We cannot abandon entire civilizations, another cried. There must be another way, a third insisted. Yora waited for the noise to subside, her expression unchanging. When she spoke again, her voice carried absolute certainty. There is no other way. I have 18 of the finest dimensional physicists in the galaxy on my team. We have run 1 million simulation scenarios. Every alternative either fails to stop the cascade or requires even greater loss of life. Evacuation is the only option. Even if we agreed, Ephraim said carefully, the logistics alone are staggering. We don't have enough transport capacity. You do, Yora corrected. Humanity does. We've been building evacuation ships for the past 6 days. We currently have capacity for 3.2 trillion beings. We'll have full capacity in 12 days. Stunned silence greeted this statement. Finally, a reptilian counselor named Thek spoke up. You built an evacuation fleet in 6 days? That's impossible. We've had 30 years to advance our manufacturing capabilities, Silas interjected. What seems impossible to you is routine for us. Yoris watched the exchange with growing unease. The humans weren't asking permission. They were informing the council of what was about to happen. Ephraim seemed to recognize this too. Director Venn, if we agree to this evacuation, what guarantees do we have that humanity won't use this as leverage? You'd be holding trillions of lives in your hands. For the first time, Yora's expression softened slightly. Counselor, 30 years ago humanity left the galaxy because we were tired of being taken for granted. We were tired of sacrificing without recognition, protecting without thanks, contributing without respect. She paused. But we never stopped caring. We never stopped watching. We never stopped being human. That doesn't answer my question, Ephraim pressed. Then here's your answer, we don't want leverage. We don't want power. We don't want to rejoin your council or rule your civilizations. We just want to prevent a catastrophe we accidentally created. Yora's voice hardened. But make no mistake, Counselor, this evacuation will happen. With your cooperation or without it. I'm offering you the dignity of choice. The council chamber erupted again in argument. Yoris watched Ephraim try to restore order, saw the fear and pride warring on representatives' faces. They were being offered salvation, but it came wrapped in the humiliation of needing rescue from the species they dismissed. Max's moved to stand beside Yoris. They're going to refuse, aren't they? Some of them will, Yoris replied quietly. Pride is stronger than survival instinct in some species. But Ephraim Stone was proving why he'd survived decades in council politics. He raised his hand, and gradually, silence fell. Director Venn, I cannot speak for the entire council. But I can speak for myself and those who still possess common sense. He straightened his shoulders. On behalf of the civilizations that wish to survive, humanity has our full cooperation. Tell us what you need. Not everyone agreed. Eurus could see representatives storming out of the chamber, broadcasting their refusal to their home worlds. But enough remained. Enough chose survival over pride. Thank you, Counselor, Eurus said simply. We'll begin evacuation operations immediately. My team will coordinate with your logistics officers. She paused. And Counselor? When this is over, humanity would like to discuss our relationship with the galaxy. Not as members of your council. As equals. Ephraim nodded slowly. I think that conversation is long overdue. The transmission ended. Yura turned to her team and began issuing rapid orders. Eurus watched humanity transform from isolated researchers into the galaxy's salvation, their ships launching by the thousands, their coordination perfect, their purpose absolute. Ren moved to stand beside him. Captain, we just witnessed something historic. Yes, Eurus agreed. The day the galaxy learned that sometimes the greatest danger comes not from malice, but from ambition without wisdom. And sometimes salvation comes from those you dismissed. Through the station's viewports, he could see the evacuation beginning. Human ships spreading across the affected regions like antibodies responding to infection, gathering the terrified, the resistant, the grateful, and the angry. Racing against time to save civilizations that had never thought they needed saving. And in the distance, the cascade continued its inexorable spread, reality unmaking itself one atom at a time. A countdown to oblivion that only humanity had the knowledge and will to stop. 3 weeks, Eurus thought. 3 weeks to evacuate 4 trillion beings and collapse a dimensional bridge that should never have been built. 3 weeks to stop humanity's greatest mistake from becoming the galaxy's final catastrophe. He just hoped it would be enough.